So, back from the VGC guide, and this time we're looking at Mamoswine. This used to be one of the go-to anti-meta Pokemon, and it can still do okay against the meta currently. Like, you can Ice Shard an opposing Landorus and just be able to KO it. You don't get intimidated by an Incineroar, and you can get a massive high horsepower into it. So it can still do reasonably well into the meta, but then there's things like Ogerpon that would do really well against it, and then Urshifu's going to close combat you. So it's in a bit of an awkward spot. Its bulk is good. Its offense is good. You don't need to invest too much into speed. You want to bulk yourself out with the Assault Vest because you want the coverage. But it's just in a bit of an awkward place. It can be a perfect 6th Mon on your team. That's how I basically view Mamoswine. This might patch all the holes in your team. Like, oh, you need to be able to just priority KO that Landorus. And you need to be able to shrug off all these hits with an Assault Vest. And you don't need to care about Intimidate. So Mamoswine can be somewhat good on your team. But it has to be the right team around the Mamoswine. Or the Mamoswine is the perfect 6th Pokemon on the team. I reckon the Terra Ghost is going to be one of the go-to defensive Terras on Mamoswine. It is on Chien-Pao. It makes you immune to fighting type attacks. Why can't it be good on the Mamoswine as well? And avoids fake out and all that, so makes you even better against Incineroar because then they can't intimidate you, they can't fake you out if you go for Terra Ghost, and they're massive damage with the high horsepower. This is the coverage you want on Assault Vest. Icicle Crash is the stab you have to go for. You can go for Icicle Spear, but I wouldn't recommend it without Loaded Ice. That's the other set I'm recommending. High horsepower or Earthquake is basically the go-to ground type attack. You can have both, but then you're sacrificing something like Heavy Slam, which is just the straight up KO into Flutter mains. Ice Shard, you should have. There's no reason not to have Ice Shard. It's great priority. Can't be intimidated. That's just going to be able to KO Landorus's. The Incineroar switching can't even save them as well. But this is the alternative. If you don't want the shaky accuracy of Icicle Crash, and to be honest, I don't blame you. I don't either. Then Loaded Ice Icicle Spear, that's going to be able to do some pretty significant damage as well. Getting that guaranteed 4 or 5 hits will be really nice, and then you'll be able to do some pretty consistent damage. You still want Ice Shard. You should always have Ice Shard on Mamoswine, but you free up your Protect slot so you can have that over Heavy Slam. And this can be high horsepower for sure. It's just to emphasize that you can go either high horsepower or Earthquake. Yes, you can go both. Like, that's perfectly fine as well, but then you do sacrifice something. I wouldn't go Thick Fat on Mamoswine. Not being intimidated is too important for that. Like, Thick Fat would be nice, so you can really shrug off ice attacks, and then the fire type attacks are neutral, and like that's still good against Incineroar, and like obviously other fire type attackers in the game as well, but you don't want to be intimidated, so definitely go with Oblivious. So Mamoswine, it's reasonable, and it could be the perfect 6th one on your team. Who knows?